right, so the like button is working fine here. It's updating in real time. And now the only thing we need to do is we need to have this down here refresh as well. Now, in order for us to replace the contents of this, we need to have an idea of what this element is. So if I go and say inspect element, I'll see that oh, you liked this. There's a div inside the A tag here. Okay. So the problem is the user is clicking this like post right here, this where it's supposed to like the post. So how do we know which element to update if this like button was clicked right here? So there's a trick we can use here, because all these elements in here are dependent on this post right here, and all these elements here are part of this post right here. So what we can do is use the post ID, because the post ID is very different to everything else here. So we can give each item here, whatever item we want to update at some point, we can give those things a name, but then we can add the ID of the post at the beginning to make the name very unique. For example, if I call this div in here the info box, for example, if I call it info, then I would need to if this is info, then this will be info as well. That's here, they'll be exactly the same. But if I add the post ID, it's going to be unique. So let's come here to post.php and let's see if we can actually pull that off. So I'm going to come down here where the whole calculation comes in for that section is this whole thing. So there's an A tag here, as you can see, a closing A tag and an opening A tag here, but then there's a break there, and the rest of it is some calculation. So the thing is, since there's a breakout here, I can't simply actually what I could do is put everything in here. Maybe that can actually help. So I could get the break tag and move it internally there into the A tag. So let me see how that changes things. So let me refresh here and let me click there. Okay, so things seem to be working rather fine with that in mind. Okay, so now that we have everything compact in one location, which is the href here, so we can give this particular item an ID. So I'm going to call this the info because it's telling our user what to do. So I will definitely call this info. So I'll say I'll give it an ID now. So I'm going to go ID is equal to, since we are using quotes here, I'm going to say info and then I'll put an underscore like that. Okay, but what I want to do is concatenate the ID of this post. So there's raw post ID right there, which is very convenient. Then I can just put it there, paste. So let me save that and let's see if we have an advantage now. So let me inspect the element again and let's go here. So now you see that the ID is info underscore and then the post ID. So now this is easier to find because this will be the info box. So if I was dealing with a comment, I would say comment underscore and then put the I'll put comment here. And so as long as this name is unique, this info is unique to this particular post, that's good enough. And then the post ID is unique to the whole post, to all the posts. So this makes this element on this page extremely unique, and that's what we want. So great. So all we need to do now is to tell the handler, this thing that handles the result, what to look for, and that's it. So at this point we can go to, let me go to like.ajax.php and just add one more thing. Okay, let me go back to post.php for a second. I need to copy this logic, this whole part here from that PHP opening tag. Let's come down here to the end of that PHP tag, and I'm going to copy that, come down here. So we are reading the likes from there, well and good, but right in the middle here, collect or create info or something, and we're going to paste that. Now of course we don't need the tags here. I was just trying to show where this ends, so I'll put something like that just to, it's easier to see. And I'll come here and do the same thing. Okay, that way it's easier to see. So let's look at some variables that might not be available in here to avoid errors. So the session user ID definitely is there. The DB will be there. So all this will work out. Let me remove the word wrap. Okay. Result likes. So these results are from here, which is good. Now, the only issue here is that this ID is not available. So I'll get that instead. Copy. And come here. So I think what I will do is just to sanitize these guys. So let me go up here. Right at this point, I'm going to say that is equal to add slashes, just to make sure everything is nice and clean. We escape any unwanted like apostrophes and all that might disturb us reading from the database. So I will do the same thing here and say, what's going on behind there? Add slashes. These add C slashes, but use add slashes and paste it. Where is my semicolon? Like that. Okay, so that way I'll be comfortable using these values in my database. So let me copy the ID, copy, because that is the post ID. I will put it here. Now since it's inside some quotes already, I have to remove these ones in here like so. Okay, great. Post. Okay, I think this looks fine, so let me save that. So at this point we can see that everything here is accounted for. The result is from this result. What is user IDs? User IDs is equal to column likes. Okay. Wait. Array column likes, from likes, content ID. Okay, great. So all this is accounted for. And now only this part is not. What we need now is to get a replacement for this part right here. This is the like count, usually taken from the post itself, but since we don't have the post here, we can get these likes here. So what we will need to do is just say, because that's an array, so we're going to say count likes so that we get the number. Count likes if count likes is greater than 0, but because this is inside an if statement, it's possible that we may not have this value afterwards. So just to make sure that we have it, we could assign it to an empty array here. So we can say likes is equal to array, like that, empty array, so that even though we don't go through here, we'll at least have the variable right there. Okay, so now instead of echoing all this, because we are sending back our data as an object, so we will need to put something here. So this is likes, this is action, so we can put one more thing here. We can call it whatever we want. In our case, I will call it info, like so. So this info will be equal to, I'm going to create a variable called info right there, like so. So let's create the variable. At this point, I think it'll be better to do it here. So say info is equal to empty string. And then what we do is we assign all these echoes to info. So I'm simply going to select all echoes like this, and then replace that with info dot echo, like so. So this will allow us to add to info. Okay, very good. But of course we have this row likes which does not exist. So instead it's going to be count likes. But counting is an evaluation. So we might as well give it a steady value and just say like count, like so, is equal to this, because we are repeatedly using it. So instead of evaluating it every time, we can just put a variable there. So I'm just going to copy this and put it here. So if like count, and remove that, like so. Awesome. So same thing for all these parts here. So I'm just going to copy these, make sure there's no more, and paste. Great. Okay. So now back to post.php, where we will have to replace the data inside this A tag right there. So this is the ID that we are supposed to be looking for. So let me come back here to the AJAX. And what I could do is, because if I come back to post.php, I still need to know what the post ID is in order to know how to access the ID of this thing here. So what I can do is go back here and get it from this side. So I will duplicate here, because we can add as much information to return as we want. So I'll say object ID is equal to, so since there's info here, I can add this just like that. Just copy it and put it here, like so. So this is the text up to this point, or I could easily just do the whole thing like that. So let me come back here. All right, so we don't actually have raw post ID. So, but we have the ID of the object, which is inside the get. So I'm just going to copy that one there and replace it as well here, like so. And same thing here, like that. Okay. Where else do we need to replace this? Okay, so right here as well. There we go. Great. Okay, so we give it a spin. Oh, before that, let me come back here to the post.php so that we can replace from object ID there. Okay. So inside response, we will say like post. Okay, that's the element right there, but then we can get our element from here. So we'll say variable info info or let's call it info element. So we're going to use document.getElement by ID. So we are grabbing the element using its ID, and the ID is inside obj ID, because that's what we sent it as from here. Okay, so ID, and then what we'll do is say info element dot inner HTML is equal to this one right here, the info. Okay, so I will grab object, instead of likes I will put info, like so. Okay, so info.innerHTML is equal to, alright, so let's give it a spin and see if it actually works. So refresh, I like this post, let me click there and nothing, and then let me click there, and you see now I have that, as easy as that. You like this post, boop, boop. Okay, so let's try and like a post from my own. There we go, let's see, there we go, great. But I am not seeing the info right here at the bottom, so something must be wrong. Let me go to inspect element, and of course there is an error, so info element is null. Okay, so why is that? Oh, I see. Okay, so the issue here is that let me come back here. So what the issue is that this element is only created if there is some likes already there. So if there's none, it doesn't go through here. So this element is actually never created. So we could change this by simply putting it there, whether there's whether the element is there or not. So let me move this part outside, like so. Great. And then I'm going to okay, so I'll need to move this one as well outside the closing tag here. One shoot. All right, there we go. So let's give it a try now. Let me go down to unlike a post like that. Let me refresh and then click that. Okay, click that again. All right, it's working, but let me come back here to this part. So since this segment will always be there already on the post here, so it means we don't need to recreate this part at all. So what I can do is remove this from likes.ajax and remove that as well. So let's see if it still works. Refresh, dislike, refresh, like, click. Okay, it seems to work just fine. There we go. There we go. Okay, so this is how you update the like button here without having to refresh the page. So now, as you can see here, there is a few posts that are missing some images. So the reason is that if I change my cover or profile image, it actually makes the images in the timeline disappear that were part of this segment here. So we're going to deal with that in the next tutorial.